Hello, Star Wars fans. Mando Mitchy back today, and we're going to be working on some custom action figures for the Mos Eisley cantina. So I'm well underway in the project of creating a cantina space in my diorama display area. I've progressed quite a bit in that install, and wanted to start with some of the action figures that I don't have, and maybe I'm hoping Hasbro will re-release, and if not, I would like them just to kind of fill out the spot. So the one or the two we're going to be talking about today is Hrchek Kal Fas and Sai'torr Kal Fas. Both, from what I understand it, they're Sauron species, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. I don't claim to be an authority or an expert on Star Wars lore and legend, but that's the way I understand it. That's the pronunciation, and that species is different. I thought it was similar to like Bosk, or like maybe from the Clone Wars Casa, but different species, similar but different. So as I started researching and trying to come up with options, what I settled on, what I'm going to try, and we'll see how this goes. It might be a huge failure. It might turn out pretty cool. I don't know. But I was able to get the 3D printed heads. So we get the 3D printed heads from an eBay seller, and I'll list all that and mention that later in the video who that was. But man, that is remarkable job that was done there. So I was able to get that, and then also it came with a hand set. So you could hold a blaster and just have another hand for maybe to put a drink in, or however we decide to do that. So have two sets of, I guess, a set of two heads and two sets of hands, and for this custom. And I guess to share a little bit about this, the Hrchek Kal Fas did come out in that era. I think it was that legacy line, and I saw him just this last weekend at a toy show, loose, complete, but he was $85. And to buy him in package, it's well over $100. And some of the loose ones I saw now, just with the HasLab Cantina coming out, it's just really, the market has just shot up, and I love this hobby, and I can do a lot with $100 on multiple figures, let alone to do that. So I have trouble spending that even on like a vintage Kenner figure for a display piece, or my collection on that, collecting the 96. So I really struggle to spend that much on more of a modern figure. So yeah, so we're going to go this route, and plus I enjoy these projects and enjoy doing this. So what I've settled on is we're going to take the Acolyte Osha Anastasia figure, and we're going to attempt to customize her into a Sauron species, Hrchek and Sai'torr Kal Fas. So if you're unfamiliar with her, she is actually they did a really great job, I think, with her accessories and everything that she comes with. She's really a good sculpt, a good base. I mean, just by herself, she's really a great action figure. So I really enjoy having her in my collection anyway. The Acolyte was, mixed review. I mean, everybody has their opinion on that, but I think for some of the figures that we got from that, and the character development in that, I mean, I think it was maybe not Star Wars at its best, but man, there was some cool stuff that came from that. So we're going to do some modifications on her, but she does have the vest. Her pants and that are somewhat in the same neighborhood of the Sauron species that we're looking at. And if you look at the documentaries and some of that on the Elstree Studios, the Hollywood Studios, the Cantina shooting, those Kal Fas characters weren't real tall, stature not real big, as you see them standing around like with Zutton and Mos Eisley and the other ones, and compared to like some of the other figures. So smaller stature. And I think this Oceanisea figure actually kind of fits that. Now, if I do understand it right, Hrchek Kal Fas is a male and Sai'torr is a female. So you can see on Oceanisea, obviously, a female actor, and she did a great job, I feel like, in the series. And so to look at that, there's going to need to be some modifications, maybe to be a little more screen accurate. And I'm not trying to go super screen accurate for the for my cantina. You'll see if you watch that, it's a custom thing, and set in I guess the theme of Mos Eisley and Star Wars cantina, but a lot of custom things going on in there as well. So I think that we could modify this figure and do both of these. I do know that like the action figure has kind of painted eyes with kind of a yellowy orange painted like eyeball, and then a pupil painted on that. From what you see on screen, man, they have those just glossy, solid black eyes. A lot of those masks and those figures had that then, and I like that look. So I'm going to do that on both the heads, and come back, and we'll do some variations. There's not going to be a lot of variations between the two because they look very, very similar. So yeah, so we're going to get in, start making some modifications, doing the paint work, assembly, and we'll see how this turns out. So let's get started and have some fun making some Kal Fas customs.
All right, so moving on through the process, and big surprise, we have some changes to what my plan was going to be. So as is always the process, the creative process, going through, we, you set out in a direction and never be surprised if it changes, especially in customizing or making something, because that's just part of the cool thing about being creative and doing these kind of things. It never really turns out the way you thought. Usually turns out even better in my experience. So with that, I was going to do both Oceanisea like donor action figures and make a Hrchek Kal Fas and a Sai'torr Kal Fas figure. Hrchek being the male, Sai'torr being the female. And so as I was going through that, I was trying to find a vest that maybe worked a little bit better. And I had picked up the 2007 Yavin Ceremony Luke and tried that vest on to the Oceanisea, and it just didn't scale right, didn't look right. And I thought, man, I just popped one of the heads, popped Luke's heads off, popped that on, and man, I am like, I love this. So for Hrchek, I decided to use the Yavin Ceremony Luke as the donor. So it's already got kind of that collar on the head, and I popped the hands, and I think once we go through with our paint, it won't look like the Legacy line figure that has the feet that match the hands on that, and that's not really movie accurate, and it's cool, but I'm not really going after that. He needs to stand behind the bar or beside the bar in the cantina. So I trimmed off his emblems on his vest, popped the hands, and so I think I'm going to go into paint, and I'll find a blaster that he can hold. But I like, for the male Hrchek, I like the look of this, so we're going to go with that. We'll see if the head looks how it looks once it's painted. It looks like with the collar on the vest, I think it looks like it scales pretty decent. So we'll check that out. Now for Sai'torr, I did go with the Oceanisea, and so went in and had to alter the neck peg a little bit, had to Dremel out the head a little bit. And the one thing that I do want to do is I want to add a collar. Both of them had kind of a flip-up Cavalier type collar on the vest, so I want to glue on something there to get that look. But I trimmed off her emblems. I opened up her pouch where that little device, like little iPad looking thing that she had, was where that fit, and actually like a Han Solo type blaster fits in there, kind of where she would pull it out with her with her left hand. It looks really pretty cool. So the hands scale pretty good. So I think this is shaping up that it might look pretty darn nice. So what I do is inside the, I saw this another creator. They'll actually fill that you've got that ball and that socket for where the head fits on the neck peg. If it's not quite fitting right, and there's nothing standardized about a lot of these figures that they pop on and off and they fit right. So you fill that with hot glue, not really fill it, but add hot glue, and then put the head on the position where you want it, and then let the glue start to dry, and then move it, rotate it, so that it's not one part of that it's glued inside, but the other part actually rotates. So I did that on both of those. That way we kind of filled in that cavity, and that works out really, really well, especially for something that's going to be a display piece. It's not like, kids are going to have these out in the sandbox and flying on drones and pieces falling off. I mean, this is something for my HasLab Cantina display. So I think it's going to be perfect. So what are next steps? Next steps are starting to do the paint application. So on these Kal Fas figures, you'll notice that the pants are a certain color, the shirt another color, the vest, and then their skin color is different. What I noticed is like the Legacy line figure, and then like the pictures that I see from like the screen, they're just different. So mine's probably going to come in kind of in the middle of that. Not really a flesh tone like what we would see that mask was from the behind the scenes like pictures and that from A New Hope, but not really with the Legacy line. I am going to go with the blacked out eyes because I think I like that look better, like on Mos Eisley and all these. I just think it's just kind of this ominous, cool look. But yeah, we'll detail that as well as we can. So we're going to get primer, all the different paint applications on, find blasters for both of them, get for Hrchek, his hands pop in great. I had to actually trim Osha's arms. You can see the pieces that I'd cut off. It looked disproportional and a little weird. So it was just too long for the body. So yeah, so as I trim that up, it looks way better now. So I had to drill out that cavity a little bit, and so I'll glue those in so that they fit good and look nice and that. But yeah, so I think we're on our way to having both the Kal Fas ready for the Cantina. So I'll continue to update this video as I do the paint applications, the assembly, and we'll see what these things look like in the end. All right, so here we have pretty much the finished product. So we've got a custom Sai'torr Kal Fas and a custom Hrchek Kal Fas. So if you're wanting these for your Cantina and you're willing to experiment and do a little bit of custom work, I would recommend this. I really enjoyed this project, and I've got the Cantina cups in their hands and kind of ready. I'm not really ready to put them in my Cantina yet. I'm still working on that, but you can see the detail on these, the face sculpts and the eBay seller, the printer creator is Darth Sinister Creations on eBay. So I'm going to share that in the video notes, so I would recommend that. But yeah, quite a bit of work to kind of pull this off, but man, I'm really happy with how this turned out. So yeah, this was the Osha Anasaea, and I did add the collar. That's a little piece of leather strap that I glued on and then went through all the paint work. So it really transformed her and replaced the hands and the head with the 3D printed piece from Darth Sinister Creation. So that's Sai'torr. She's the female of the species and the Sauron species that are in the Cantina. And even if you look at the behind the scenes footage in that, she seemed like she was a little smaller stature. And so I think that kind of fits. And then this is Hrchek, so he is the male species. And I used that Luke, that 2007 or 2008 Yavin ceremony Luke for this. And yeah, kind of customized a blaster for them. But yeah, again, I mean, you look, I went in and detailed inside the mouth and the teeth. And yeah, I just made the eyes black because that's more screen accurate. I kind of like that look. The Legacy Collection one, that $85 to $100 plus one, has the kind of the reptilian looking eyes in it, and it's kind of cool looking, but I kind of like this, so I'm pretty happy with this. So yeah, so I've got this finished up, and these guys are going to go. They're two of the cantina aliens that I had wanted to create on my list, and there's a whole nother list. So coming up, I've got a Tisbit. I'm going to do. Yeah, just on the top of my head, there's a bunch of them that I'm going to create and work with. If you haven't, would you consider subscribing to the channel? You're going to see, as I'm working through building dioramas, I don't really do much review. I do some review with that on characters and figures and that, but not too much. It's more custom builds, restorations of old Kenner projects, some world building. I've got some really big plans on a spaceport and a custom world build I'm going to coming up in the next, hopefully in the next year or so. I'm going to be doing that. My room tours, just a lot of that stuff. And I'm going to be building my first cosplay costume, outfit, uniform, or whatever. So I've already started 3D printing, so look forward to that. That's going to be on the playlist as well. So yeah, look through the playlist, like, subscribe, it helps the channel. Thank you so much for your time and watching this video on the custom Sai'torr and Hrchek Kal Fas creations that I did. And God bless you all. Thanks again for watching. This is Mando Mitchy signing off. We'll see you next time.